Listen, just for a moment. Be still, because what I am about to say may change the way you see money forever. Money is not running away from you. Opportunity is not hiding from you. Abundance has not forgotten your name. What is happening quietly, invisibly, is that your own thoughts may be standing in the doorway of your blessing. And tonight, something gentle yet powerful is going to shift inside you, not by force, not by striving, but by understanding, because when the mind is trained, the life must follow. So many people believe money is something external, something difficult, something reserved for the fortunate or the favored. But money, at its core, responds to consciousness. It responds to belief. It responds to expectation. Long before money ever reaches your hands, it passes through your thoughts. Long before wealth shows up in your life, it shows up in your inner conversation. And if the inner world is confused, fearful, or filled with doubt, the outer world can only reflect that condition. You see, the brain is not merely an organ. It is a receiver. It listens constantly. Every word you speak over yourself, every silent assumption you make, every picture you hold about your future, your brain accepts it as instruction. And once accepted, it begins arranging your actions, your focus, your decisions, and even your opportunities to match that instruction. This is why two people can stand in the same environment, with the same resources, and experience completely different financial realities. Many have been taught to pray for money, but few have been taught to prepare their minds for it. And yet, money cannot remain where it is not respected. It cannot stay where it is feared. It cannot multiply where it is resented. If deep within, you believe money is corrupting, heavy, or dangerous, your mind will quietly push it away in ways you may never consciously notice. You may procrastinate. You may undercharge. You may avoid opportunities. You may feel uncomfortable receiving, all because the brain is protecting you from what it believes is unsafe. Training your brain to make more money begins with gentleness, not pressure. You cannot scold yourself into abundance. You cannot shame yourself into prosperity. The brain learns through repetition and emotion. What you repeatedly feel to be true becomes true to your nervous system. This is why worry feels so convincing. It has been practiced. But faith can be practiced as well. Expectation can be practiced. Receiving can be practiced. There is a sacred responsibility in learning to think differently about money. Not for greed, not for pride, but for stewardship. Because money, when held by a healed mind, becomes a tool for service, for freedom, for generosity, for rest. And when the brain is trained to see money as something that flows through you rather than defines you, something extraordinary begins to happen. You stop chasing and you begin attracting. Your brain must learn to recognize opportunity instead of threat. Many people unknowingly associate growth with danger because in the past, change brought pain. So when a new income path appears or a bold idea arises, the brain reacts with anxiety instead of curiosity. It says, what if I fail? Rather than, what if this is the door? Training the brain means gently teaching it that expansion is safe, that success does not require suffering, that ease is allowed. The thoughts you think before sleep matter. The words you speak when no one is listening matter. The images you hold when you imagine your future matter. The brain does not distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is physically experienced. When you consistently imagine yourself calm around money, wise with money, generous with money, and at peace while receiving money, your brain begins to normalize that reality. And what is normal to the brain becomes natural to your behavior. Some have been faithful in effort, but inconsistent in belief. You work hard, yet expect little. You hope quietly, but speak doubt loudly. You prepare for loss more than you prepare for increase. And the brain, ever obedient, prepares your life accordingly. Training your brain is not about denying reality. It is about choosing which reality you are feeding. Money responds to clarity. Confusion repels it. When the brain is scattered, finances often are as well. This is why calm thinking, focused intention, and emotional regulation are not luxuries, they are wealth skills. A regulated mind makes regulated decisions. A peaceful mind notices solutions others miss. A grateful mind multiplies what it holds. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not late. You are simply learning a new language, the language of abundance consciousness. And like any language, it feels unfamiliar before it feels fluent. At first, speaking words of expectation may feel unnatural. At first, receiving may feel uncomfortable, but repetition creates comfort, and comfort creates confidence. Do not rush this work. The brain resists force but responds to love. Speak kindly to yourself about money. Replace old statements with new ones. Where you once said, "I can't afford that," begin saying, "I'm learning to manage money wisely." Where you once said, "Money is hard to get," begin saying, "Money responds to value, and I am learning to provide value." These are not empty phrases. They are instructions to the brain. Your brain also learns from what you tolerate. When you tolerate financial chaos, disorganization, or dishonesty, whether from yourself or others, you train the brain to expect instability. Order invites increase. Integrity invites trust. Respect invites return. Even small acts of financial responsibility send powerful signals to the mind that you are ready for more. There is also a connection between worth and wealth that cannot be ignored. Many secretly believe they are unworthy of ease, unworthy of overflow, unworthy of abundance without exhaustion. And so the brain creates scenarios where money arrives only through struggle. Training your brain includes healing your sense of worth. You are allowed to receive without apology. You are allowed to succeed without guilt. You are allowed to have more and still be humble. Silence your inner critic when it speaks about money. That voice is not wisdom. It is conditioning, and conditioning can be changed. The brain is remarkably adaptable. It rewires itself every day based on focus and feeling. What you focus on grows stronger. What you feel deeply becomes familiar, and what becomes familiar becomes your life. You were never meant to live in constant financial anxiety. That state clouds judgment, shortens vision, and weakens creativity. Peace sharpens discernment. Calm expands awareness. And from awareness comes inspired action. Often, the next financial step is not complicated. It is simply unheard beneath mental noise. As your brain learns to expect good, you will notice subtle changes. You will speak with more confidence. You will notice opportunities you once overlooked. You will negotiate without fear. You will say yes without panic and no without guilt. These are signs of a trained mind. And money responds to this posture naturally, quietly, without strain. Let your mind rest in the belief that provision is possible, that ideas are valuable, that your presence in the marketplace matters. When the brain stops bracing for lack, it frees enormous energy for creation. And creation is where money flows most freely. Do not measure progress only by numbers. Measure it by peace, by clarity, by confidence. These are the foundations upon which lasting wealth is built. Money that comes without inner preparation rarely stays. But money that arrives to a trained mind finds a home. Tonight, something is already shifting. Awareness has begun, and awareness is the doorway to transformation. As you continue to train your brain, gently, faithfully, consistently, you will find that money begins to recognize you differently. Not because you chased it, but because you became ready to receive it. Be very still for just a moment. Quiet your thoughts. Breathe. Because what you are about to hear is not merely information. It is an invitation. An invitation to see differently, to think differently, and therefore to live differently. Money is not distant from you. Provision has not forgotten your address. Abundance is not reserved for others while passing you by. But there is something sacred, something delicate, that must be adjusted first. And that something is the way your mind has been trained to think. Tonight, gently, patiently, your brain can begin learning a new language, the language of increase. For many, money has been spoken of in hushed tones or heavy warnings. It has been associated with struggle, fear, guilt, or conflict. And the brain, faithful servant that it is, records every association. It remembers every emotional charge. Long before you ever held money in your hands, you held beliefs about it in your mind. And those beliefs quietly shape the path of your life. The brain is not passive. It is always responding, always adjusting, always interpreting reality through what it has been taught. If it has been trained to expect lack, it will notice scarcity everywhere. If it has been trained to fear loss, it will resist opportunity. If it has been trained to believe that money brings trouble, it will keep money at a distance as an act of protection. The brain does not judge these patterns, it simply obeys them. This is why effort alone is never enough. You can work tirelessly and still feel as though money slips through your fingers. You can be skilled, intelligent, and hardworking, yet remain trapped in financial cycles that feel invisible and exhausting. This is not because you are incapable. It is because the mind must be aligned before the outcome can change. Training your brain to make more money is not about manipulation or greed. It is about harmony. It is about allowing your inner world to support the life you desire rather than silently resisting it. Money responds to order. It responds to clarity. It responds to consciousness. And consciousness begins in the mind. Many have been taught to pray for provision without realizing that prayer is most powerful when paired with expectation. Expectation is not entitlement, it is alignment. When the brain expects good, it prepares for good. When it expects lack, it braces for loss. What you expect determines what you notice, and what you notice determines what you act upon. The brain filters reality. Out of thousands of possibilities, it selects what feels familiar. If struggle feels familiar, struggle will be selected. If ease feels foreign, ease will be ignored. This is why abundance can pass right in front of someone without being recognized. Not because it wasn't present, but because the mind was not trained to see it. You see, money does not arrive suddenly. It arrives gradually, subtly through ideas, connections, timing, confidence, and courage. And each of these must be recognized by the brain as safe. A fearful brain cannot receive inspired ideas. An anxious brain cannot evaluate opportunity clearly. A mind trained in panic will choose small certainty over expansive possibility every time. There is no shame in this. The brain learned these patterns to keep you alive, not to make you wealthy. Survival was the goal, not abundance. But now you are allowed to move beyond survival. And the brain must be lovingly retrained to understand that growth is no longer dangerous. Training begins with awareness. Awareness of your inner dialogue. Awareness of the phrases you repeat without thinking. Money is hard to earn. I'm not good with finances. People like me don't get ahead. These statements may feel harmless, but they are instructions, and the brain follows instructions precisely. When you speak these words, your nervous system responds, your body tightens, your vision narrows, your creativity dims. And in that state, even when opportunity appears, it feels overwhelming or risky rather than exciting. Training your brain means interrupting these patterns gently without judgment. Instead of arguing with old beliefs, replace them with truer ones. Not exaggerated promises, but calm reassurances. I am learning. I am becoming wiser. I can grow at my own pace. The brain trusts gradual change. It resists sudden pressure. Consistency is what rewires it. Emotion plays a powerful role here. The brain learns fastest when emotion is present. If money has always been tied to stress, the brain will associate finances with danger. But when you begin to pair money with calm, when you review finances peacefully, make decisions thoughtfully, and imagine success without anxiety, the brain starts forming new associations. Visualization is not fantasy. It is rehearsal. When you imagine yourself handling money with confidence, generosity, and peace, the brain practices that state. And what the brain practices, the body follows. You begin to stand differently, speak differently, decide differently. And these differences accumulate into tangible change. There is also the matter of worth. Many struggle financially not because they lack ability, but because deep within, they question their right to receive. They equate humility with lack and virtue with struggle. And so the brain enforces these beliefs by rejecting ease whenever it appears. But worth is not proven by suffering. It is not earned through exhaustion. You do not need to be depleted to be deserving. When the brain understands that abundance can coexist with integrity, generosity, and humility, it relaxes its resistance. And in that relaxation, money flows more freely. The brain also responds to order. Chaos signals danger. Disorganization signals instability. When finances are neglected, ignored, or avoided, the brain assumes they are unsafe and distances itself further. But when you bring order, even small order, the brain interprets this as readiness. Tracking expenses calmly, planning without panic, saving modestly, giving intentionally. These actions communicate to the brain that money is no longer a threat. And when the brain feels safe, it allows expansion. Focus is another essential element. The brain amplifies whatever it is fed consistently. If you constantly consume stories of loss, failure, and fear, the brain adopts those narratives as probable outcomes. But when you expose your mind to stories of wisdom, stewardship, creativity, and growth, it expands its sense of what is possible. This does not mean denying reality. It means choosing which reality to reinforce. The brain cannot focus on gratitude and fear simultaneously. One always replaces the other. Gratitude signals sufficiency, fear signals scarcity, and money responds to sufficiency. Training your brain also involves learning to pause. Many financial mistakes are not caused by ignorance, but by emotional reactivity. Impulse spending, avoidance, procrastination, all are emotional responses. A trained brain creates space between emotion and action. In that space, wisdom speaks. Stillness is not laziness, it is alignment. When the mind is still, intuition becomes clearer. And intuition often carries the quiet guidance that leads to increase. Not loud commands, but gentle nudges. Not pressure, but peace. As your brain becomes more regulated, you will notice a shift in your relationship with time. Urgency fades. Desperation dissolves. You stop rushing decisions out of fear and start choosing from clarity. And clarity attracts stability. Money also responds to value. When the brain is trained to focus on contribution rather than competition, creativity expands. You begin asking, how can I serve? Rather than, how can I survive? And service, when aligned with skill and integrity, naturally generates income. Your brain must also learn to tolerate success. This may sound strange, but for many, success feels unfamiliar and therefore unsafe. Praise feels uncomfortable. Growth feels destabilizing. And so the brain subconsciously sabotages progress to return to familiar ground. Training includes allowing yourself to stay with success, to breathe through it, to let it settle, to normalize it. When success no longer feels shocking, it becomes sustainable. Rest is another overlooked component. An exhausted brain cannot create wealth. Fatigue narrows thinking and weakens judgment. Rest is not a reward for success, it is a requirement for it. When the brain is rested, it solves problems with elegance rather than force. Your thoughts before sleep matter. The brain continues processing while you rest. If you fall asleep rehearsing worry, the brain practices fear. But if you gently reflect on gratitude, progress, and hope, the brain practices trust. And trust is fertile ground for growth. Do not be discouraged if change feels slow. The brain rewires through repetition, not intensity. Small shifts, practiced daily, create profound transformation. What feels insignificant today becomes automatic tomorrow. Speak kindly to yourself when old patterns surface. They are not failures, they are echoes. And echoes fade when no longer reinforced. Each time you choose calm over panic, clarity over confusion, trust over fear, you strengthen new neural pathways. Over time, you will notice your relationship with money softening. Conversations feel lighter, decisions feel clearer, anxiety loosens its grip. And in that softened state, opportunities find you more easily because you are no longer bracing against them. Money is not your master. It is not your enemy. It is a tool that responds to consciousness. When your brain is trained in peace, integrity, and clarity, money aligns with those qualities naturally. And as this training continues, quietly, patiently, faithfully, you may begin to realize that abundance was never something you had to chase. It was something you had to allow.